Hey, everybody, Off the Mic Sports Network here. Another edition of Off the Top Rope. Thanks to everybody who subscribes and uh, tunes in daily to some of the content that we turn out in wrestling. A big story on Wednesday, as there were some murmurs within the community about one Britt Baker, a story that we have followed. I kind of jumped the gun a little bit on it. And there was further speculation as bodyslam.net reported, and it's been pretty accurate on some of the stories that they've reported, that Britt Baker, the former AEW Women's World Champion, has not been seen on AEW television since November. That she was looking to get an early exit out of her contract, which was a 5-year deal that she agreed to in 2021, ironically, when she became the Women's World Champion back then. And listen, I'm not gonna, play, I'm not gonna play stupid here. I'm not gonna act like an idiot here and tell you guys or how great Britt Baker is. I'll be the first to tell you, I don't think she's anything that incredibly special in the grand scheme of women's wrestling. She is a decent star, and she deserves a lot of credit for raising her profile in AEW. And I think she deserves a lot more respect. And that's what I want to talk about here. Is that no matter how you feel about Britt Baker, and like I said, I don't think she's that special. Her wrestling ability's fine, promo ability's fine, but in a lot of ways, she's not really like the greatest talent in the world. And, if she were to leave, I don't know what the future would look like because of her name. She might get a chance to shine on a bigger stage like in NXT. But the point here that I need to hammer home is that I think Britt Baker is getting a total raw deal. No matter how you feel about her, no matter what you think of her personally and the stuff that she's done backstage or whatever, that woman is the first woman that signed with this company, okay? And the fact that she's literally had 2 or 3 matches since she came back last June. There was the match at All In last year, and then there might have been another match mixed in between, and then there was that infamous match. I forgot who the hell she was even facing, but then she looked at Serena Deeb and basically said straight into the camera twice, "Nobody cares," and we haven't seen her since. It's almost no coincidence. But there's been a lot of backstage turmoil from Britt Baker in her time in AEW, and a lot of people felt that Tony Khan catered to her too much. Now it seems like she's been just tossed aside like a sack of potatoes. Like, the problem I've always had, this women's division, outside of really the top tier, it's really top heavy. There's not a whole lot to write home about. And that's why they're doing the women's championship match that they are at All in Texas this year. There's really just nobody left. You don't think that Britt Baker, with her name value, could have at least added something? And who knows? Maybe she's in the Casino Gauntlet. Maybe that's where she is. But part of me thinks that Tony is holding that match at All in Texas really on Britt because he got a better person who he respects more, is a better wrestler, and is just kind of forgetting a lot of the core things that, really brought him to the dance. Like I said, I'm not saying that, Britt Baker's the greatest wrestler alive. I'd be an idiot to say that. She's fine. She's adequate, but she's not like anything special. But that being said, her being the first person to plant their, being the first female to plant their flag in this place, and outside, in terms of being there from the beginning, I don't know if there's a star that put their stamp on the map outside of Tony Storm from going into AEW has raised their stock more than Britt Baker has. Because unless you were an independent wrestling fan or somebody in ROH or whatever, you didn't know who Britt Baker was before 2018. You didn't. I mean, maybe if you paid attention to Chair Shot Reality and you were out in the Pittsburgh area and you knew, oh, there's this dentist who's a really cool wrestler. You didn't know who Britt Baker was. So she's really raised her stock a lot. And a lot of that is a credit to AEW and also the fact that, Tony kind of latched onto her, being that she was the first. And now, you take a look at like some of the cornerstones of this women's division that started the like Riho and Nyla Rose, and Thunder Rosa is kind of marginally used. Like it's so much new, and even the new people have been tossed aside. So I just think Britt Baker is really gotten a really raw deal in terms of the grand scheme of her placement within this women's division, just because it's it's you deserve better than this. And if like listen, if you're Tony Khan, you're just wasting money. You're just wasting money. And so the reports of this rumor of her leaving, they've been debunked. AEW people that have talked to Sean Ross Sapp and the people at Fightful Select say that this isn't true. There's been no inclination. Sean Ross Sapp basically put it this way. He basically said, if Britt wanted out, she would have made it known by now. Part of me feels that that's kind of just damage control. And that's just, AEW trying to get control of this situation. Because if Britt Baker is still in that company and still has at least another year left on her contract, and you have as depleted a women's division as you could possibly have, so much to the point that you're only having one title match and then a gauntlet, and she could very well show up in the gauntlet, but that also begs the question, where the fuck has she been the last 6, 8, 9 months? Like, she hasn't been on television since November. She hasn't been on television since November. It's July 2nd at the day of this recording. This is the same day as the episode 300 of Dynamite. Britt Baker, I think, was on episode 1. It's amazing to me that even though, like I said, I do not have like a booming opinion of Britt Baker. I think she is, like I said, she presents herself like a star. She carries herself like a star. Her wrestling is fine. It's not anything special to write home about. And like I said, in the grand scheme of things, like, if you put her in with the, the women in that high level match, at All In, if you put him up against that, I don't think she's near that level. And it's almost like Tony Khan is blaming the perception of last year, and, the match and the feud, the dream match that they did last year is ultimately on Britt. And, that's completely unfair. That really is unfair. And then there's been some turmoil with MJF too. Like there's just, I understand that there's a lot of, drama that comes with it, but to just like, cast her aside like this and then, have all these rumors. And this has basically been going on for about a month where is she staying or is she not staying? And, if you're going to use her, use her. If not, let her go. Because, but at least give the decency of like, doing something and not playing this dog and pony show, which has literally been the MO of Tony Khan. He did this with Rey Fenix. He did this with Mariah May, let her contract run out. He did this with Penta. I mean, he's done it he did it with Ricky Saints, when he was Ricky Starks. Like, it's not good business if you're not going to use somebody and you're just fearful that they're going to go to the other place and, do better. But it's like, if you don't have anything better for them to do, when there's, at least with some of these other people, like I could see this scenario of like, although, Penta and Phoenix could have easily been used in the tag team division. Ricky Saints it should have been presented a lot better, but it was pretty evident that he was going to leave because of Cody, because Cody's one of his best friends. But with Britt, it's like, that's one of your first signings to AEW. That's one of your first female signings to AEW. No matter what the perception is, get her on television. You got people for her to feud with. You can build and strengthen your women's division, but you've kept her off of television. There's all these questions. There's all this cryptic bullshit going on, and you're just letting this problem fester. So either address it and put her on television, or address it and let her go, get her out of her contract, because it's either one way or the other. Either somebody doesn't want them to be there. Whether it's Britt, whether it's Tony doesn't want, whoever it is, this needs to get resolved, because the fact that she hasn't been on television for almost a year is ridiculous. That's ridiculous. She has gotten a complete raw deal from this company. Like it's and whatever the messaging here, it's been screwed up. It's been a PR nightmare from an AEW perspective. It's a bad look either way because if she gets let go, you've dragged this out long enough where it's just become a huge issue and a huge distraction and a huge question mark. But if you do bring her back, so if you let her go, but if you bring her back, it begs the question of, okay, why the fuck wasn't she on television in this entire calendar year? She literally hasn't been seen since the end of 2024. She could have easily been in the Owen. She may show up in the Casino Gauntlet, which would be a good moment. But why'd you wait so long? Is there an injury that we don't know about? I don't know, but none of that has been reported. By all accounts, she is healthy. She was going out and vacationing. I know she's had some health problems, and it was good to see her back in the Forbidden Door heading into All In last year. But this is a mess. Really, another just messy situation in AEW. So anyway, we're gonna have a live post show following Dynamite 300. Congratulations to AEW. They're not even talking about this episode as much as they did that spring breakthrough where they passed WCW. That tells you everything that you need to know about their priorities. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.